What's up, YouTube? Hopefully everything is going well with you guys. I am currently about to get ready to do a podcast. I don't know if you guys can hear the Christian music in the background. If you do hear it, then I'm sorry. But once again, it's Christian music, so why not? But currently, I am getting ready to do a podcast soon for one of my friends who's also a digital marketing coach. And I'm going to show you guys the gear that I carry and basically how I set up for a podcast. All right, let's get to it. So to get ready for a typical podcast, you obviously want to have your camera bag that has your camera. I usually carry two cameras. I carry two Canon 70Ds, and these are recording at 1080p, 24 frames per second. I can also do 30 frames per second if I wanted to. Would like to do 4K, but I would need to upgrade my cameras to do that. But I'm carrying not one, but two, three, and four tripods for this podcast. I have one tripod for a light, another tripod for my camera, and then another tripod for my second camera. And then this last tripod is going to be for a boom arm for a scratch audio, and I have my own Rode Video Mic Go 2 inside my backpack. That's what I use for my scratch audio. And we do have two lavalier microphones as well. That would be the main audio. But also within this bag is my light, and the light that I'm using is the Kodak ML60 bicolor, but I always set it to 5600 Kelvin so that we can get some accurate skin tones. And then lastly, for my modifier, I'm using a Glow 38. 38. It's not an octabox, but just a regular softbox. And with that, I always place a grid on top just so that we focus the light on our subject. So yeah, these are all the gear that I'm gonna be using, and I have to pack all of this within my car. So yeah, I'm gonna go do that. All right, so currently driving to pick up one more photographer or videographer for this case of the matter. So just picking them up so that we can have 2 to 3 camera angles for the podcast. Even though we do not have like the best gear or anything like that, we still make this podcast happen. And yes, we are using Canon cameras, we're using crop sensors, but at the end of the day, we're using what we have and we're making it work. And I feel like that's a very important thing to do, or just a very important mindset to have if you want things to happen. You know, even if we did not have all this gear, we would still be using our iPhones to make it happen. So definitely use what you have and just keep pushing, keep working towards it. If you can invest as much as you can to make some type of upgrade, please do so, and you'll see the fruition of your results. But yeah, just on the way to go pick up the second photographer slash videographer. So here we are at the set. We are about to start shooting. We got our second videographer, Cam, right here, and we're just going to be recording off of his T7. After so, we do have our Canon 70D for the main angle, and then the T7 for the second angle. And then we have our main speaker today, Jenna, right there. We also have our scratch audio, which is going to be the Rode Video Mic Go 2. And then we have two lavaliers that are connected to the phone. And we also have our main light, which is going to be the Kodak's ML60 bicolor. I'm just going to be right here monitoring the whole shot.
You want to get sponsorship.
All right. Overall, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who was able to come to this podcast. Jenna, Cam, Serena for getting this BTS time lapse, and also our guest speaker for this podcast. It's John Sessions. The name of this podcast is Define Crazy, and it is hosted by Jenna. And we had John, who was able to be our guest speaker today. And it was just an amazing podcast where we were just able to open up about psychological events that affect young adults.
Like that's what made it worse, because since I was so uncomfortable and kind of like embarrassed about what I had going on, that I didn't feel the need to talk to anyone about it, because I didn't want to be judged or have anyone say I'm using this to victimize myself. But it's like I'm still trying to like pack it in my head of like what I have going on.
But 100%.
That's why it's spiritual awakenings.
Yeah, very essential.
Yeah.
And they happen multiple times throughout your life.
Mm-hmm.
You might think that one of your early 20s is the one.
Just finished the podcast. The podcast was amazing. What I love about this certain podcast was that it's always about the psychological aspects, whether it be the emotions that you're going through, or just any type of, I guess, trauma that you may be going through, or just things that you need to let off of your chest. And it's truly just a place that you feel comfortable to share. And I feel like that's one of the greatest things about this certain podcast, because there's a lot of podcasts out there that, they cover certain topics, but sometimes they just don't do it well. And what I love about this podcast so much is the fact that not only am I the person who is recording it, I'm also the person who gets to witness it, and I'm a part of it. And I feel like literally a part of me can be shared through this psychological podcast that allows us to open up about certain traumas that people who are growing up are always dealing with. And these are things that we're gonna have to face sooner or later, but that's just about the podcast. The podcast was amazing. Recording the podcast was amazing as well. Did have some small technical difficulties. If you guys don't know, like I said before, I have two cameras. One of them, they're actually the same camera, the Canon 70D, but one of them, the camera shutter, the blinds that close the sensor, is basically broken. So I can't really take photos on that specific camera, so I use it for video. But as I was setting it up for video, the blinds kind of got bent, and I was just like, ugh. It was just an annoyance. So at the end of the day, I still had a second camera that I could use. I used that second camera, and it helped me a bunch. Just having a backup camera that just works was amazing. And we just kept on going with the podcast. It worked out very nicely. But yeah, that's how a typical day with me setting up for a podcast, doing the podcast, and just breaking it down. Currently heading to McDonald's because I am hungry. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.